I'm back. And so is Brendan Urie. All right, cool. What is going on, my friends? Thank you so much for tuning into the Impossible podcast. It's been a hot minute. Life has happened. I had a whole summer where I was going to record, but I was busy doing quite a few things with work. And then I joined a musical for, fun reasons. And I had a good time with that, but I'm ready to get back to this. Stay tuned, though, because we are actually integrating this into Twitch. I did have another Twitch channel that I was using, but I've actually rebranded that to go towards the Impossible podcast. I think I said that in another podcast episode a little bit earlier this year, but it's been I think literally 4 months since we've recorded, but we've got a good one today because we've got a comeback album. We are going to talk about it with a special guest. Symantha Morales is going to be on the podcast here in just a second here, but before that, make sure that you are following all the socials. Make sure you're subscribed to Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're following on Spotify because you don't want to miss out on episodes that are going to be more frequent now that, I'm not absolutely dying with everything in my life.
Without further ado, let's get into this album with Symantha Morales.
So, welcome to the Impossible podcast. We've got none other than the love of my life, Symantha Morales. Hi. Hi, honey.
Hi, honey. And hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
So, Panic at the Disco album just came out with Viva Lost Vengeance. See, I'm already forgetting the name. Why? Because, this album. Anyways, so...
In my notes, I also wrote, accidentally, Viva Las Vegas, even though I know the title of the album.
I mean, well, because everyone says Viva Las Vegas,
right.
But it's not actually... I don't even know. Anyways, so... I usually start out the podcast with a sentence to describe this album. I'll give mine, and then I want you to give me yours. So, my sentence to describe this album is basically like this. It's not really a sentence. It's more like it's like a run-on sentence. The sentence to describe this album is, it's like a birthday party that you have, but you invite everyone in your class, and nobody shows up besides your obnoxious family members. And it's not even just regular family members, it's the most intolerable family members. And then you go down the line of presents that they give you, and you hope, for whatever reason, you hope that when your final gift happens, you're going to get the absolute gemmest of gifts. You hope you're going to get a PlayStation 5, and you just get a PlayStation 4 game that you already own. That's what I feel like this album is at a glance. What's your sentence?
All right, so... To me, this sounds like a musical, much like Mamma Mia, where the music is coming from an artist. It's a collection of their music, and this just kind of reminds me of, it's a Grease-esque rock kind of album. Yeah, so for me, it really feels, when I listen to it, there are very few songs in this that don't remind me of a musical theater show.
It definitely sounds like musical theater for a good portion. I didn't think about it initially, and then when we were listening to it together, you were like, oh, it kind of sounds like a musical theater album. And I'm like, oh, okay, that checks out. And he was also,
Yeah, he was on Kinky Boots, so it makes me wonder, or in the show Kinky Boots, it makes me wonder, did that experience influence this album?
Yeah. And so watching interviews of his, he was trying to go for that Queen style of rock and roll. Mm-hmm. I would say honestly he hit on that intention, because I feel like he said that for a few albums that he's done. Mm-hmm. Pray for the Wicked, not so much, but for Death of a Bachelor, he said he was trying to go for like that with a mix of Sinatra, and I feel like he hit on that album a little bit more than he did on this one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But also for this album, I saw someone on TikTok do it. I don't even remember what the name of the TikToker is, so I can't call him out, but I am going to call out his opinion. I am going to say, so he said that this album was produced very poorly, and all I'm going to say is Brendan Urie went on Sirius XM radio and like said this. He said that the album sounds kind of like not inauthentic, but it doesn't sound super overproduced because he actually recorded all of this on an 8-track recorder, which is why it sounds like kind of very fuzzy in a lot of spots. So like that's why, and so like there's someone who
I honestly, that wasn't even something that came across my mind.
I know.
Just like it kind of fit with what he was trying to go for with the style of the music anyway, so it wasn't like something that popped out to me.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into some and also just another like pointer, when he was on tour for this album Viva Las Vengeance, he actually did the entire album live.
Jesus.
I don't know why, but he did.
Wow.
I don't know if he did like a Weekend type-esque thing or like an artist type thing where he just did like a compilation of the whole thing.
Again,
and, like,
musical theater show.
Yeah.
He could have just done a musical theater show.
Yeah. I mean, like, so like this is the thing. Maybe he did that because of the fact, like maybe he did do the fall show. I'm not sure. I didn't look too much into it, but I did see on a set list that he did 25 songs total, including the whole album, which is like an 11-track album.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, so I will say for just kind of like the high points of it, what were your favorite songs off of the album?
Okay, I will say that like Viva Las Vengeance is a pretty like it's a simple song, but it like I could bop to it.
It's effective. Yeah, it's effective.
It's effective. I liked Local God.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I probably will mention throughout this podcast is certain songs that felt like they were comfortably in his range and could be sustainable when he's touring, and things that weren't. And this is one I felt like was sustainable, and it is just another one that I bopped out to. And then Say It Louder was okay.
Yeah. I actually heard Say It Louder on Fortnite the other day, which is really funny. Which I was like, oh my god, okay. So, yeah, I would say for the most part as well, it's a very front-loaded album, I will say. And what I mean by that is basically, like, I feel like the stronger songs are on the front, like, kind of the first half of the album, really. In my opinion.
Okay.
I feel like the end of the album drags quite a bit.
Yeah, I will. So, I also liked God Killed Rock and Roll.
Yeah, that one was... I don't remember when that came in on the track listing.
Yeah, and like Middle of a Breakup was good.
Oh, I remember. I think for that song, for God Killed Rock and Roll, I remember being like, yes, I liked the first... This is kind of where the musical theater part of it comes into it as well. Because it almost sounded like two separate musical ideas. I almost wish that he kind of rolled with the first idea, like the first half of the song, that slower kind of piano ballad approach that he took and everything, but then it like quickly like switched gears like that. In
my notes I have that I enjoyed the harmony at the beginning. He had I think it was like a 4-part harmony that started at the beginning.
I know that, yeah.
And then I did say that there was at the very beginning there was a part on the piano that reminded me very much of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Fitting. Very fitting.
Yeah. And then I had a thought in my head, which may be rude, but I said that I thought it was funny that he of all people is singing the line, God killed rock and roll.
Yeah.
Because his style is not pure rock.
It really
It's
isn't.
pop rock.
I mean, it used to be like, I think ever since Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die,
Yeah.
he's definitely gone on the approach of like, we're gonna more orient towards pop
Yeah.
now. And like he still has rock sensibilities and everything, but it's like pop music with instruments at this point in time.
Yes.
Which like, you know, has its purpose and it has like it's good music at times. Like Death of a Bachelor is still, I think, a pretty strong album, but this one is interesting. So I would say, yeah, for the most part, for a lot of these songs, Brendan is a good vocalist. He has to be in order to like be on Broadway and stuff like that, and he is a good vocalist. But he like tends to push his voice sometimes, which I'm like, he pushes his voice to like points where I think it's not only unhealthy, but also like it just like falls not flat musically speaking, but like falls flat just in terms of like he can't really support it, so it's not like a super strong sound.
Yeah, and that I have on a handful of songs from this album, I have that note that, you know, sure, in the recording he can hit that note, you know, or hit this line fine because he's had however many chances he needed to take to record that part, but there are also parts that don't have that the line, you know, like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like he could sustain other parts fantastically. It's still like a stretch in his range.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that like 50-50 chance, you know, when he does this on tour however many nights a week.
Yeah, so I will say I did see quite a few recordings of him on tour that were like questionable at least. Which I was like thinking like I was thinking that too. I was like, okay, he's going on tour for this. Usually when you go on tour for an album and everything, you have like all the other hits and everything and then like a good majority of songs from the album. Like you play maybe 13 to 17 songs and like a majority of them from the album. I was not expecting him to put the whole album on the set list.
Right, and even like, sure, for one show is a lot, and then also add on to that he's doing that, again, however many nights a week, and on the note of seeing videos of him, I've seen videos of him with his past albums, where he, not even pieces in his actual albums, like he'll do covers and things, and he really tries to stretch his range and try things out, and it doesn't always work because he doesn't always, you know, either he's been singing for several days and his voice is just tired, or he's not giving it the correct support or the correct placement. I mean, I watched a whole Sam Johnson video that was kind of going on like the quote unquote the worst
performances,
like mess ups from
I've seen that one,
and Brendan Urie was on there, and you know Sam Johnson walked through it, and with the same thing, it wasn't, you know, sustainable, and so there were actually, let me look at my notes, I have Viva Las Vengeance there at the end could be a little bit difficult to sustain. Local God. Oh, no, Local God was a good one. Star Spangled Banger.
Yes.
Was one that I had literally at the end. It said less sustainable vocal parts.
Yeah, for sure. What was it? I love the riff on Local God, but then I feel like the chorus just like goes to a weird, like for a lot of this album, I feel like the verses and the choruses sometimes, for me at least, don't have a whole lot of coherent kind of like connection really. That was the thing for Viva Las Vengeance too. Like I was not used for the chorus. I basically was like, I don't know where this song is gonna go, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Right, and I feel like that, like, if this was an actual show,
Yes.
like a musical theater show, I feel like a lot of these pieces, there are some that are quite cohesive. Like I said, Viva Las Vengeance, what out of a lot of the songs was, pretty cohesive, but with a visual element to those to the other songs, I really feel like it would make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Because if there is a change in the music, like other musical theater shows, that happens.
Well, that's another thing too. So he said in interviews as well that he started coming up with like names in his process of like lyric writing and everything, like Maggie. There was another name in there too, I think, as well. He said he came up with Maggie quite a bit, and there was another name that he came up with. If he was gonna roll with the rock opera or / concept album type thing, I almost wish that he leaned into it more,
right?
So that it would be like
more obvious,
more obvious, yeah. And so like it's almost like ambiguous in the sense of I don't really know what he was going for. Like he says he knew what he was going for and everything, but it's almost like kind of in the middle of the road of like either he's super like into like rock opera musical theater, we're gonna make a huge kind of overarching story, or we're just gonna be like a regular old rock album, and he's just kind of like in the middle of the road with it.
It's kind of like he was trying to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because if you're a Panic at the Disco fan but not a musical theater fan, this is not going to make any sense.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're a musical theater fan but not a Panic at the Disco fan, it's also not going to make a whole lot of sense. But if you are a fan of both, like as I was listening to it, honestly, I wasn't picturing like a super cohesive storyline, but I could see like different scenes maybe with
visual elements,
and like maybe with certain characters reoccurring. I can actually read you some of there was so let's get into Don't Let the Lights Go Out.
Oh my god, okay.
So my first note on that is that the beginning guitar line reminded me of Grease.
Yes. Like
that whiny
yeah, oh my god, it did. Yeah, that's like what song is that from Grease?
Literally most of them.
I mean, yeah, you are right though. You're not wrong.
Hopelessly Devoted.
Yes.
Has that like,
for sure, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so we were talking about this yesterday. We were talking about the lyrical aspect of that song, which I've seen about.
I did look up kind of the intention of what the lyrics meant, because there was, the line in the beginning where, he was like, okay, well, somebody's asking me to leave. And I was like, oh, that kind of feels like is he in a hospital with a loved one? And I looked it up, and that is the intention. He's like with someone he loves, that, or the character in the piece, is with someone that they love that is fighting for their life, between life and death. And then when I knew that, as I continued to listen to the song, I wrote,
oh no.
Okay, so this is the full note. I said, the lyrics seem to be telling the story of a loved one in the hospital trying not to die. And the protagonist is singing the line, who's going to drive me home? Who's going to take care of me? And I was like, okay, like, sure, when you lose someone who was like really important in your life, you may have that thought, but like, this is maybe like not the right time for that. Like, not even like, this seems to be like a thought that you have after that person dies and is no longer in pain and fighting. You're like, okay, I've lost this person, what am I gonna do now? But instead of being like, oh, like, who's gonna make sure that they're gonna live? And it's like the protagonist of the song is like, what about me?
I see, when I was looking at the lyrics of this, I was interpreting it as like, oh, like almost like a Grease type, oh, you left me at the drive-in movie thing. I was expecting it like a death of a love. Oh my god, that makes it so much worse.
Right. So I was listening to, I restarted it, the last listen through that I did. I started it, heard that beginning lyric that made me think, oh, this kind of sounds like is the protagonist of the song in the hospital?
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and then I restarted it because I was like, okay.
This doesn't sound...
This gives it a new lens, and is actually a worse, like a horrible lens.
Horrible, oh my god. That's awful. Yeah. So like some of the lyrics too, I've actually seen on by the way, the hate for this man on TikTok.
Yes, they hate him.
So... very clear on TikTok. So I will acknowledge that there's a lot of hate for this guy on TikTok.
Yes, and to be fair to that and to the people on TikTok, we don't know 100% what kind of guy he is.
We try to do research and everything on the musical aspects of it, but we don't exactly know how he is as a person.
And I think it's clear, probably from the, past couple of minutes we've been talking, that we're not like, oh, Brendan Urie's perfect, and like, we're just taking a look at this album from an objective lens. But it is important to note that there have been some sketchy things said about him. Very, very sketchy things. We won't go into detail about some of the other things that he's kind of been in hot water about. He poses as to stand for like good values and everything, like for LGBTQ plus rights and everything. He seems to be on that front and everything, but I believe he's pansexual. I believe you're right about that. Yeah. But as far as like personality and things he's done, I have heard quite a bit on TikTok, which I get why. On a musical standpoint though, I have heard even more hate about it. So there's a lot of things on there that, they don't like about him. Right. There was one line in middle of a breakup, which I was like, am I missing something? Like, missing a joke? It was, keep your disco, give me T-Rex. Wow. I don't even know. Yeah. It's a part of the chorus. I feel like he's just like, maybe with that kind of thing, he was just, that has to be a euphemism. That has to be a euphemism. Either it's a euphemism or it's a lyric that makes no sense. Yeah. Or both. I don't know. Either way. But so one of the things that I saw on TikTok was they were talking about Don't Let the Lights Go Out. Yep. And they were talking about the line, who's going to operate my heavy machinery. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But also, like, think about it this way. If he's going for the Queen style of rock and he's trying to replicate that, if Freddie Mercury wrote that line, would we be laughing at Freddie Mercury the same way that we're laughing at Brendan Urie? Who knows? Exactly. We weren't around when Bohemian Rhapsody was released. That is true, yeah. And who knows what the initial reaction to that was. Because when you really think about that piece as a whole, it's got an interesting, it's not... The structure's definitely interesting. Yeah, so... It does make me wonder. Also, don't want to compare Brendan Urie to Freddie Mercury whatsoever. No. No. On my next list of things that kind of made me, I guess, cringe a little bit. The title, Star Spangled Banner. Oh my god, I literally wrote, title is cringe. It's pretty bad. And I was really hoping, I was like, okay, maybe this is actually going to be a banger. And it's like... It's alright. It's mid. It's mid. That was one of the ones that I wrote, the less sustainable vocal parts. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, it sounds alright. I mean, even in the recording, it sounds like he's struggling to get up to those notes, so. and like, apparently he hadn't, like, really been... He said that it almost kind of seemed like he was dusting off like his vocal chops and everything. Mm-hmm. And I think he kind of was saying that on his interviews and everything, but like, it's almost like he's trying to dust off his
vocal chops in the most extreme way ever.
Yeah.
Instead of like maybe just taking it easy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, like, if as a performer, if you want to expand your range and like try new things, you do that in a practice session.
Yes, for sure.
You don't do that in a in a tour setting until you're 100% sure that you can just get through that comfortably and consistently.
Yes.
Even if you do get a cold or if you are exhausted, it just doesn't quite make sense for that setting, because I think it really does let a lot of people down when they go to see him in concert. And again with TikTok, I saw a TikTok where someone was like, imagine paying $200+ to see
Brendan Urie.
Panic at the Disco, and just to see Brendan Urie scream.
Yeah.
Like, which those videos,
Screech, yeah.
it's not in a comfortable part at that moment.
It's not
of his range.
And he's doing this like pretty much every night almost. Yeah.
So I can't even imagine. Like,
and his touring schedule, like with some artists, they'll take a lot of time in between to kind of rest up, and also the production's huge.
Mm-hmm.
But like for him, he's very much like pretty much one night he's in Boston, the next night he's in New York, and then the next night he's doing another show in New York. It's like, yeah, he wasn't taking a whole lot of time. So and doing 25 songs.
Yeah.
Fully, like, holy crap, dude.
What are your thoughts on Sugar Soaker?
Lyrically or musically?
Either.
I didn't pay attention much to the lyrical side of it. See, I know... Here's the thing. For the whole album as well, the choruses are very catchy. If you asked me about some of the other parts of the songs, I would not be able to tell you. Choruses are very catchy, though. I think that's what he wanted. But, like, everything else I like maybe could tell you like a glance of. It's an album that I could possibly forget about. I'll know that it's in his discography and I'll forget about it probably.
Yeah, so for Sugar Soaker was the one that I wrote meh.
Yeah, that was the one.
It literally wasn't holding my attention.
Yeah. Did I even save that? No, I didn't. I didn't even save that. So I usually am like, okay, if I save a whole or like most of the songs for Spotify on like if I like most of the songs, chances are I'm very, very happy with the album, or I want to know more about the album. For this one, it's a 12-song album and I saved 5. And out of those 5, that was 2 listen-throughs.
Yeah.
That was 2 listen-throughs even.
Which is something you have to do often.
Yeah.
Normally first time arounds aren't good for you.
No, they're not. No, I'm like, okay. Yeah, and so I listened to it second time around and I'm like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah, it's only 5.
So the worst part of this album that really tanked it for me, in my opinion, we hit Sad Clown and Sad Clown. We hit Sad Clown and you're right, Brendan, it is sad.
I literally wrote, sounds like if ADHD was a song.
It's like if you took and not to make light of ADHD or anything, but like it's like if you took a 6-year-old kid and all you put in their Halloween candy was Fun Dip, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that's all you did.
No,
and you expected them to eat that. I
listened to it 3 times and I was like, this is all over the place.
I actually, like, halfway through it, I, like, listened to it, and then on my second run through, I actually skipped over it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I could not do it. And then also, you know, his totally not ripping off Into the Unknown, totally not doing that. During the chorus, the leave me alone.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so, oh my god, see, if you can make a meme about it and you can make fun of it, chances are it's probably not a great song.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. Going back one track, Something About Maggie.
Yeah. That was one of the ones that I saved.
Yeah, I did like that one. Again, because this is just what happens in my brain, because I do like musical theater, I said, this song sounds like a gay best friend, pumping up another friend to leave her abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I see it.
And then my last sentence was was weird harpsichord run at the end? ?
Oh yeah, there was,
At the
wasn't there?
very end, there's like a weird random harpsichord. Like,
I didn't even hear that. Good ear on you. Yeah, I didn't even hear that, but like that was like
very much like there's nothing
very
that's happening, and then it happens.
like a slight one, yeah.
Yeah, so like you could very easily just like skip to the next song
Yeah.
because you think the song's over.
So yeah, no, Sad Clown was the thing that made me like absolutely like the rest of the album tanked for me for like up until that point. Like it's weird. So that song was just not great vocally at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was one song that I literally was like, why would you make this choice? You could have made this album maybe a little bit better if you took this song off the album. Or even if you kept this song off the album, go down an octave, go like do something different vocally.
No, again with talking about him trying to like, you know, stretch out, you know, his range and try out his chops, whatever.
This was the range extender.
It's literally like with a lot of when it comes to learning placement in singing, a lot of exercises for that tend to on purpose kind of get students to sing make nasty sounds to kind of find that placement, and that is what that song reminds me of. It reminds me of like a weird warm-up for placement that you'd have a high school student do because they're placing things too far back
She's a vocalist, by the way, in case you were wondering.
It doesn't sound like a song that you would want to be like, hey everybody, I wrote this and I'm gonna perform it every night.
Yeah, for sure. That is true. That is true. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. That tanked the whole rest of the album, and then the next song was like a wimpy little All By Yourself.
Yes, which is also funny because it's like, you know, you're talking to this person and they're like, you're all by yourself, but that's okay. But also, you and I will live forever. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what? Like,
I know, there's no direction. Just
you can't give a pep talk to someone saying that it's okay to be alone, and then, but also, like, bring yourself into that.
Yeah.
Again, with, like, the narcissistic, like...
Yeah.
What about me?
What about you? Pretty much, yeah. So there's that, and then Do It to Death is like a whatever. It ends with a shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
I said it definitely sounds like a finale song.
Yes.
That brings, again, it's especially sounds like a musical theater finale song because it calls back.
It does,
to the
yeah,
title
and
track.
it recaps that, yeah.
Yeah. So it felt like he was trying to put a nice, pretty bow.
A little cap on it.
On a messy...
messy end of the album.
And, yeah.
And messy album in general.
Yeah, and like, the last song isn't messy.
Yeah.
But you do, like, again, trying to recover from Sad Clowns. Like,
it is. Like, literally, Sad Clown tanks the album. It's, like, in terms of, like, full listen through. Like, I can't even imagine trying to do a rest of the show after hearing Sad Clown. I'm not even lying to you.
No, and again, even before he wrote this album and released it, I had seen several videos, because you know how you go into the rabbit hole of you see one video.
Now you have to go look.
And then, you know, you just keep scrolling and there are more, of him struggling on stage. Which, as a vocalist, would be my worst nightmare. If I'm going to do something over and over and over again, I either want to choose a song or a collection of songs that I'm going to be able to do no matter what happens, or I'm going to need to kick my butt into gear and make sure that the songs that I'm being asked to do are comfortable.
Yes, for sure.
And it really feels like, even for the recording, like, never mind the fact that he used less technology, you know, recording it on an 8-track, whatever he did for that. Forget about that. It's just the choices that he decided to make as his final decision for the album it's not sustainable.
Yeah, for sure. And like I would honestly think that with the next album that he releases, there might be like 3 songs that come from this album after this, like in terms of like what he plays for his live show, or maybe who knows? Maybe he won't even play anything from this album at all.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like also a side note, like again, this might sound mean, but with musicals or rock operas like Mamma Mia or
Rock of Ages?
no, not Rock of Ages. What is there's a Green Day.
Oh, American Idiot.
Like American Idiot. They didn't make their music to be in a rock opera or in a musical.
American Idiot was actually technically a rock opera.
Like, was it originally?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It was, yes.
Sorry, wrong on that. Rock opera, again, musical theater geek, not rock opera.
It's like well, with that, it was written as a rock opera. They made it into a stage musical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just stick on the line of Mamma Mia.
Yeah. Anyways,
ABBA did not write their music because they were like, this one day is going to be a musical.
Yeah. No, they were writing their music.
So I feel like there's a little bit of narcissism.
Oh, he probably he
like,
might think maybe one day they'll write a musical.
Yeah, he's
on this.
like, if I gear it especially towards what I'm looking to get out of this, then maybe one day, because I'm so fantastic, they will make this into a musical.
Yeah, I used to really adore Brendan Urie. I don't much anymore, especially after all the things that were said about him on TikTok and everything. And you can't believe everything you hear on TikTok, but just going back, looking at some questionable things in his past, in his checkered past.
When enough people bring up concerning behavior, concerning choices, it kind of just like gives you the ick.
Yeah.
For a person.
It does.
There have been a few musicians, a few actors, people in our everyday life that you hear enough people speak up about, and then you're just like, eh.
And now that person's just pretty much like, what do I even think about you, really?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, just kind of the album just ends. So I will say he does in the concert setting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He does 7 songs after the whole album during his set.
After?
Yes.
Jeez.
7. He like sandwiches, so he does 6 songs at the beginning of his set, does the entire album, and then 7 songs after that. I'm like,
no
holy mother.
No wonder there are so many recordings of people like being like, why is he screaming?
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable, and especially doing this, and then what, who knows what songs that he does afterwards, because some of his other music is
also challenging. Yes. What was it? Oh yeah, he did what was it? Oh, he did a few kind of higher ones. I will say he did do Death of a Bachelor after this, which I'm like, okay, good luck, dude. Good luck.
Yeah.
You just did Sad Clown and you gotta do Death of a Bachelor after. I don't know why you're doing this to yourself, buddy.
Yeah, that
I do not know.
Requires a lot of support, but also like just like the overall, like, I guess like warmth that he originally has to that song. Like,
yeah.
That's again really hard to sustain after
It is.
Pretty much like dragged your vocal cords
Night after
through
night.
the mud.
Night after night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I don't know how much time he took in between. It did look like
not long enough.
Yeah, well, it seemed like it was like really short for the time that I think he would need. But also like in terms of production for his show, and we're saying a lot of his because Panic at the Disco is just Brendan Urie at this point.
Yeah.
It has been. It probably is going to be. I will say though, we should mention there are other projects that other Panic members have gone on to do. Like I don't know how, but They Found Me. I think that was Dalton Weeks. I could be wrong about that, but Dalton Weeks, that was the former bassist of Panic at the Disco, who ended up doing a side project. So go check out that project if you want to hear old Panic at the Disco members doing some other music as well. But I will say, yeah, it's just like, I don't know what the production of it was necessarily, because they do have to take into account like how to get all that stuff out of there. Really, how long is it going to take?
Right.
So maybe they did take quite a few days in between, I think, but it was like, it wasn't that many days though. I think it was like maybe like every other day if they were going to take it. Like if they had a show on a Monday, they maybe had another show on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that makes me think like, I don't know, whomever it is that does that scheduling. I don't know if it's their manager or if they have a specific person who only does scheduling, but they're not usually gonna have that in the back of their mind. They're thinking about how many places can we get to, how much money can we make, what things are open, what things will take us. So it really is not enough time, probably.
Yeah, it's I don't think so.
Because that's not the nature of touring. You don't, if you're touring, and it costs a lot of money to rent buses and pay the people who are working for you and...
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, I was considering going to see this tour, and then I heard the whole album, and I went, no.
Yeah.
No. And they also came... I was mad, too, because they came to Maine during the Death of a Bachelor tour and everything. I actually did go and see the tour, but I didn't go to the Maine show. I went to the Massachusetts one.
Yep.
And I wish I had... I did go to the Maine one, or I went to the Massachusetts one, but I wish I went to the Maine one, because I would have loved to see him more in that setting than the Massachusetts one. But that was also a better album too.
Right.
It really was.
More consistent.
Yeah.
Less experimental, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, not to say that experimenting with your vocal range or your style or whatever is bad.
I think it's just...
There has to be a period in between where you're working your ass off to make sure that the product that you're going to put out is good.
I also think we're at the point, too, where we're kind of like... It's not post-pandemic, but it's like after the height of the pandemic, music is coming out and everything. And so bands and artists are coming out with albums that they have been working on, like while they're in quarantine, while they're kind of in, on their own and everything and not touring. And so I think a lot of people also have kind of like a little bit of a heightened, like, okay, what album are you going to give us, like, with this time alone? Like, what what are you going to bring us as well?
Never mind that, like, musicians are also people, and the pandemic was a really rough time for a lot of people, so it's kind of awful to expect musicians to not also get that time to like be depressed because
for sure.
they're quarantined.
Well, I think that's the consumer, like, that's the listener part of it too. Like, I think a lot of fans expect, like, oh, you went through the same thing as we did. I want your music to be raw and super emotional and super, like, oh, this is a comeback, like everyone's coming back and stuff like that.
Or if someone didn't, hasn't released music yet, like, what have you even been doing?
In a sense, like, that has happened, so I get why some of the expectations are there, but is it realistic? No.
No, because everyone's different. It's like, okay, Brenda, you've been literally, when the pandemic started, you were taking depression naps every day. Mm-hmm. I'm Brenda.
Yeah.
So why do you get to...
you're Samantha.
So why do you get to have this expectation of another human being who went through the similar things?
Yeah, for sure.
But it is like, as a listener, like, you do want them to be releasing more things. Mm-hmm. Because we did go such a long period of time without going to concerts at all, or, buying tickets to a concert and then it gets canceled because the members of the band or the crew get COVID.
Yeah.
And so they can't have their show, or just like not wanting to go to shows because of the stress of it. I know that that's been a big thing.
Yes, for sure.
For me is like, I'm not going to go to a big show and be in the pit by myself. Like,
Yes, for sure.
If you're going to be there with me, I'll go, because you've been to a lot of shows like that and I haven't.
But to go by yourself,
right.
yeah.
And I know someone who gave their tickets away to go see Harry Styles in Boston because of how stressful the thought of being around that many people was
by yourself,
for them.
yeah.
And I mean, she was with friends.
She was with someone, but even with friends, it's still stressful.
And it was TD Garden, like that's a lot of people.
It is.
And it was right when, you know, we were just getting back into school, and so...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good way to cap off our conversation, I think, about Viva Las Vengeance.
I was going to say Vegas.
I wanted to say Vegas. It's not Vegas, it's Vengeance. Viva Las... Anyways, well, thank you very much, honey, Symantha Morales, for joining us on this podcast. You might hear more of her, considering we live together and also are, you know, companions. And so, thank you very much for listening to this episode of Impossible. Be sure to keep on the lookout. We are, not we necessarily, but I, Eric Yim, am going to be doing more stuff on Twitch. I'm actually going to try and get more guests on, and we're going to live record this on Twitch as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to link that in the show notes, but the Twitch is going to be twitch.tv/EYimpossible. Thank you very much, someone, for taking my username. I was going to just do Yimpossible, but someone stole my username. So it's twitch.tv/EYimpossible. And we are going to start doing stuff on Twitch, and we might have like one-off streams. Like I might just mess around and make some music on my laptop. I might play some Madden on there. I'm probably maybe going to stream some, not mature content games. So something like Madden, maybe Knockout City, those kind of types of games there. It'll be a good time. So thank you, Symantha, for joining me. And we will pick up next time when we upload again. They're going to be more frequent. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, and be good to yourself along the way. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah! Go. Words. Hi, honey.
5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate.
What?
The first one said, "Oh my, it's getting late." The second one said, "Let's dance."
Is that
let's
a kid's
prance.
song?
The third one said, "No, it's our chance." The fourth one said, "Let's run, run, run." The fifth one said,
I should probably know
"Let's
this as an elementary school music teacher.
Woo went the wind and out. It's also a book. Went
Oh,
the
okay.
lights, and 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight.